So the agenda for today, we already did attendance. We're going to talk about the online environment. Basically, it's challenges, what you have to overcome if you're going to be presenting in an online environment. Two different types of speeches. I'm going to refer to them as synchronous and asynchronous. I know that seems really complicated, but it literally just means in time and then not in time. So this is live and this is pre-recorded. That's all you need to know. Number 5, online speaking guidelines. What to remember in, we'll talk about it in more depth. Practicing these speeches. It's not that much different. It's just, since you're using technology, you should practice with it. That's why I did some recordings. That's why I'm doing this recording today, so that when I record the important lectures, I'll know. I'll know that my recording is reliable. Have a backup plan. We'll go in depth with that. We'll see if anybody has any questions, and then we'll talk about next class on Thursday. So, number 1. There are elements of the online environment that influence your speech. These include a remote audience. You could be talking to people in Alaska. And what do people in Alaska have that we don't have here? What's the constraint? So if like you wanted to hop on a call with them, what might you have to arrange? Time, exactly. I've had classes with people who are in Greece, you know, where like it's 3 a.m. for them and it's 6 o'clock at night for me. And I'm like, wow, that sucks. Factors of technology. It is not perfectly reliable. Again, that's why we do tests. Wi-Fi, all that sort of stuff. It can be very laggy, just connecting to things in general. With your textbook, on the very first week, we saw this, just having access to things. Forms of interference. Usually just comes in the form of having a bad internet connection, or your microphone's not picking up everything it needs to, or your camera's lagging, something like that. But what I want you all to remember is that this isn't a basis for discrimination. All right, it's not as easy as, oh, just go get better internet, just go get a better mic. We can't afford these things, you know, so that's just something to be mindful of when we're making evaluations. You have a very distinct relationship with the audience because you're talking to them as they're in their environment, their own domicile, room, whatever. So some things are the same, some things are different, in essence. All right. I'm sure when you were all switching to online classes, you all had to do Zoom or WebEx. Can anybody name any other things we could think of? Google Meets. Okay. Does anybody remember Skype? No, boomer, get out of here. You just want to make sure that just like your topic, what you're trying to do, the purpose of your speech, you should also know if you're giving something of commemoration, what type of software is appropriate for that. You know, there are certain things that are designed for more of a one-on-one approach when communicating online, and there's other things where you can be one person talking to many people, like in Zoom or what have you. But even in this, I'm not using it for anything other than just to record myself giving this. So the audience specifically, do you need to have, like I said, that one-on-one? Do you need to be in a group, you know, like if you're doing a group project or something like that? Occasion, kind of in line with the speech itself. But you should practice with the software that you choose. This will kill your credibility. If you don't know what you're doing, if you're like, oh, I'm not, if you have to share your screen, there's a little box you have to tick that says optimize for video. And another one that's more important, that's share sound. Otherwise, you're just playing a video with no sound. You know what I mean? And nobody can hear anything. Bless you, if that was a sneeze. Kinds of online speeches, like I already said. Number 1, asynchronous chronos. That just means time. Sync. Are you together or not? This means you are together. You are not together in time. This means you are together in time. But your textbook calls them recorded online speech, real-time online speech. But I don't like having things different that are spelled the same thing at first. It throws me off. So, but you can call it whatever you want. Any questions about this? All right. Real-time online speeches. Special software like Zoom, stuff like that. There's a remote audience. An online job interview is a good example for real-time online speeches, or the lectures you all had to do when you were in school. But yeah, pretty basic stuff. Then there's the other one. They're uploaded to the internet. They gave the example of a TED Talk, but I think something that's more akin to like a pre-recorded lecture. If you go on our Canvas page, you can actually find pre-recorded lectures that aren't from me. They're from the other instructor that gave me this course. In case you find a video like that and you're like, this does not look like my professor. But I wanted to keep them there because, you know, more is better. What about TED Talks? What do you think? Do you think it's a real, like it's a, this happens in real time, or it's a pre-recorded and then uploaded to the internet? Pre-recorded? Because when it's presented to a live audience. It didn't really seem fair to put this into this category because it's not, it's only after the fact that it becomes a pre-recorded speech. So don't get conceptualized, don't get tied down in the binary. I don't know if I ever said this before. But think about life as a spectrum instead. Rather than conceptualizing things as being on one end or the other, try to think of it in a finite line. So when we think about the TED Talk, we could think, oh, it's either pre-recorded or it's not pre-recorded, but it's somewhere in between. I think you'll find life a lot more amusing when you don't think of life as being either this or that. There's a gray area. In everything you do in life, there's always a context. So, more of my wisdom you didn't ask for at 26 years old. All right. Some guidelines. Number one is to control the visual environment. I'll go into more in depth about what that means. Adapt your nonverbal communication because when I'm up here, I can move around. I can gesture a lot more freely. When I'm stuck behind the video, I can't really move beyond this. I have to make sure that everything's in frame appropriately so. Adjust your pacing because you don't want to be talking too quickly. But in a pre-recorded speech, what can you do? Speed up and slow down. Somebody's a pre-recorded speech. What can you adjust?
The pace.
The pace, right, the time. You know, you can choose, if somebody's talking really slow, you make it go faster. If they're talking too fast, you can slow it down. That is an affordance that is granted to you by technology. But in a real speech, when you're speaking in real time, pacing is something to consider. Remember your audience because it's very easy to just stare at your screen and forget that you have a web camera and forget that there's people watching you. So it makes it a lot more fluid if you're making some semblance of eye contact, as opposed to just me looking at my screen the whole time. Yes, of course.
Whenever we
No, I'm not going to make you, but it does make you more credible. That's why I don't show up like you guys. No offense. You know, if I showed up like you guys, and y'all don't have to, you don't have a dress code. I technically don't have one either. I make this dress code for myself. You know, because when you look good, you feel better. That's my personal philosophy. But a long-winded answer to your question. Thank you for the question. Practice, obviously. If you're giving it in person, if you're giving it in front of a camera, what have you, because if you give a pre-recorded speech, there's probably time constraints on that as well. And with the flow of technology, you want to make sure that it's all lining up as it should. Like if you give in your first attempt, you have a 30-second lag because you couldn't get the Zoom software to do what you wanted to do, it's going to eat into your time. Then when you practice the next time, you don't have that problem. You're like, oh, why was it 30 seconds shorter? Now you know. So just what can you see during a speech online? It's pretty chaotic. The setting, the lighting, the framing, eye contact, and personal appearance. So if you're at home, if you're at the office, if you're in the classroom, you know, Lighting is pretty self-explanatory. Framing is just what can you see in the frame of the webcam? Can I see stuff in the background? That's very distracting, you know? And it's hard to pay attention to the speaker when I hear a dog in the background, or I see somebody walking back and forth, or something like, we can't control everything, obviously, but there are certain things we can't control. Personal appearance, that is another one. And doesn't really matter, except from the waist up. We all know the attire. Effective framing, pretty self-explanatory. You don't want to be shoving the web camera right in your face. It's not good. But you also don't want to be too far away either. Somewhere from the chest up is what you're aiming for. Just look at the webcam. That's what effective eye contact is. Control the visual environment. So, like I said, you can see there's a lot more factors in this picture, like there's some stuff right here, I don't know what it is, some stuff in the background here. The lighting is all thrown off because all I can see is the light permeating from the back. I can't see them. But if you give a nice background, you can, the speaker's the only thing in frame. What else can you pay attention to? You know? I'm going to give you guys a term. Oh God, here he goes again. Man, that marker stinks. All right. Attention. This one sucks too, but it doesn't suck as much. Economy. All right. Anybody want to guess what that means? An attention economy. How we get somebody to listen? How well we can get somebody to listen. Okay. Pretty much, yeah. If we look at the word economy, it's supply and demand, right? And I'm not, this isn't economics, so that's not that. Your attention is a finite resource, just like time. Everybody is competing for your attention. The internet, me, your parents, your whatever. You have to make sure that people are paying attention to you because there's so many things that are pitted against you in the war of paying attention. So I also bring up that term to get you to think a little bit more in depth about, is somebody, do you know, if I use the term rage bait, do you know what I mean? Some people shaking their heads, other people, yeah? What's rage bait, Aiden? Stuff to post online to piss people off. Basically, you know, stuff to provoke an emotion. So true. Trolling, yes. You're just being evocative. You're just trying to get attention because attention is limited. You're competing to get people's attention. How do you grab people? You know, so this is how you grab people. Just try to limit the background distractions and give yourself the most control over your environment as possible. Adapt your nonverbals. Well-planned, deliberate gestures. Confident, controlled eye movements. Adjust your pacing. With visual aids. That's very important. A brisk tempo, unlike other online content. This is when I kind of, you know, am like, yes, because things happen very quickly. On YouTube, you know how you can get the advertisements that are skippable, but then there's the unskippable ones. And how long are the unskippable ads?
Way long.
Way longer? 5 seconds. They usually, there's like 3 or 4, like 1 or 2 of them, but they have 5 seconds to get your attention. That's it. They know that's all they're getting, you know? Don't even get me started on TikTok, you guys, or YouTube Shorts. That has killed the attention span. So you have to make sure that you're using a similar upbeat tempo. One that isn't like Ben Stein, Bueller. Remember your audience. You don't want them to feel like they're not there, which is really hard to do in an online class. That can be as simple as making eye contact, or it can be as simple as saying, does anybody have any questions? Because there's a chat box where people can ask questions anytime. Anybody can put anything in the chat box, usually, unless there's a moderator. But part of effective adaptation is looking at that text box. Instead of having to ask, does anybody have any questions? You already know, I saw a question in the chat, let me read it out loud so people know. Mental dialogue with yourself to know that the audience is there. Just reminding yourself, okay, I gotta be mindful of the fact that people are listening to me right now. I should keep them in the loop. Keep public and public speaking, even though when we were all in isolation and quarantine, not very public, but practicing those speeches. Like I said earlier, practice with your software because it can kill your credibility when you come up here and you're like, oh man, I've never used this before. What are these things? How does it work? The screen recording function. When you record your screen, you can either choose the whole screen or you can pick certain things to like selectively, like, oh, I only want to show you my PowerPoint, or oh, I only want to show you this Word document or this video. So if you pick only PowerPoint and then you pull up an external link and you're like, oh, why is nothing happening? It's just going to cause a flub in your speech because somebody's like, we can't hear anything. We can't see anything. Update your software. What did I have to do before this lecture? Update my software. And it only took me like 5 minutes, but say you're just about to give your speech, you're just about to log in, and then you're hit with that software update. And it's like, geez, I'm supposed to be giving my speech right now, and I have to update my software. So with recorded speeches, not that much different, but what is the audience going to see? Whenever I upload a video, I always make sure I watch it from the viewer's perspective to sort of know what are they seeing, because I'm the editor, I don't see everything that would be in the finished project, because there's a lot of overlays and stuff. Record yourself so you know the timing of it, and then you can rewatch that recording to sort of see, do I sound okay? Am I too quiet at times? Is everything in frame? When I pull up that video, can I hear the sound? That sort of thing. Have a backup plan. This might include distributing your outline, the physical copy and handout of your speech, moving to a conference call where I can't do a pre-recorded speech right now, or I can't present this, so can we do it some other time? Which goes into my last tidbit, but I'm sure y'all have used this before, OneDrive, where you can work on PowerPoints, Google Docs, slides all at the same time. Move to a recorded format if you can't get it in a live format, or just reschedule. Like, hey, my internet's bugging out, or there's somebody outside with a leaf blower, with a lawnmower. Can we reschedule? That may or may not be possible, you know? But that's kind of the beauty of having the ability to pre-record and then upload your speech, is you can do whatever you want. It's not like, oh, no, it has to be at this time, at this place. You get a flat tire, you can't be there. You can pre-record and then upload it. So I'm probably never going to make you pre-record and upload your speech, but things happen. You know, it could be we all have to be online tomorrow. I don't want to live in that reality, but, you know, contingency, planning for what we can control. And that's all I got for you. That's it. I know I talk pretty quickly, but it's also, I know you guys know a lot of this stuff already, so I'm not going to bore you to death with the details of, and this is how you record stuff on Zoom. So, chapter 5 is topic selection and preparation. Just, you know, in this speech, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. All right, the door opens. So, all my recommendations are for that is just read chapter 5, do the chapter 5 homework. Pretty simple stuff. Yeah.